But usually here we talk about the view a lot, and we prioritize the view. Diving into this nine yana curriculum has been a little bit of us going down the mountain, but it's really useful, and particularly for new people, one can contextualize their practice from this ancient curriculum that, of course, popped up probably 7th, 8th century, but was around under different classifications. For example, even the Sarma schools like the Gelugpas and the Kagyupas, they use, I think they have five classifications, and they sort of exclude Dzogchen. But nonetheless, excuse me, uh, Dalai Lama has a book on Dzogchen, so they do mingle with Atiyoga. So this curriculum has been found under different classification systems: five yanas, nine yanas, 10 yanas. Most people are aware of the three yanas. It used to be called Hinayana, Mahāyana, and Vajrayana. Now I think they're a little confused on what to call it, but here we typically say Shravakayana, Mahāyana, and Vajrayana to avoid inadvertently offending anybody. So that also corresponds to outer, inner, and secret, where the Shravaka yana, which is coupled with the Pratyeka Buddha yana as the first two of the nine yanas, those are considered paths of renunciation, worldly paths, where you're saying, I'm going to abstain from my desires, I'm going to suppress them and avoid them and things like that. So it's a little bit more of a worldly path, taking vows, following rules, taking precepts. And in the retreat tomorrow, we'll start off because for a Dzogchen practitioner, it does not matter. You can take any vow you want and hold it. No problem if you want to. You have that much freedom. So for 48 hours, we will hold some vows just for the heck of it. Or we should actually say the vows will hold us because, they're very natural. I'm asking you all for 48 hours not to murder anybody. I mean, that should be pretty easy. Maybe idle chatter or white lying, that's a little bit more difficult. Or perhaps you need to be a little bit more mindful, I should say, with that stuff. So that includes, media indulgence and all this for the next 48 hours anyway. So, of course, the Bodhisattva yana is also considered a path of renunciation in the worldly, in the outer. And then we went over recently the three inner. So it goes outer, inner, and secret. And so that would be Kriya, Charya, and Yoga yanas. Those are considered, it may be a little confusing because uh, they're the outer tantras, but as far as the outer, inner, and secret yogas, it's the inner yoga. And then Maha, Anu, and Ati is secret, right? Because we're dealing with the non conceptual at that point. So you could think of outer, inner, and secret everything. Even when you see the Virgin Mary, you could say, well, on the outer level, it looks like a woman who never had sex had a baby. On the inner level, it's your impression. This is I get a quality of luminosity and spaciousness from looking at the Virgin Mary, or something like that. Wow, it's a miracle she had a baby without having sex, whatever. I don't know, but it's your inner impression. And then on the secret level, we understand it's beyond concepts. So it's actually something we can abide in the Virgin Mary as spaciousness, as the great womb, the Tathagata Garbha. So there are different varying degrees that typically things were encoded in a kind of twilight language. And so here in the nine yanas, you have three outer, three inner, and three secret. Okay. And so we just did the three inner, and we're moving on to the three secret. And let's see if we can just get right into it. Are there any questions about the previous yanas? It's basically there are 3 turnings where the Dharma wheel goes all the way around. And these are little turnings within that one big turning. That's the idea anyway. So everybody good on that stuff? You can see the same approach in the Vedas. Everybody actually practices instantaneous enlightenment. But the idea is that I'm sitting here telling you about awareness and you're not seeing it. So then you go do some mantras. you go do some visualizations, take some vows, get your mind right. And then we'll talk again in 10 years when you tell me your 2 words. Right? like the joke. But anyway, this has always been the idea for beyond historical sort of calculations and remembrances. The idea is that here is this purely present mind of yours. You are totally free right now. That's sort of when you get pointing out and you see it. But then your karmic momentum picks back up, your self-absorption, inclination towards desires and aversions, hatred, rage. And so these things come back into your purely present enlightened mind. And you can see your own enlightenment get distorted at that point. Because just like Toko Organ Rinpoche says, when you get pointed to Svabhavana, Rangshin, the nature of mind, you are pointed to your enlightenment. For a moment there, you caught it. But the apprehension is so quick, typically, it happens within a fraction of a second, within a plank. They got these small scales of time and everything. It happens very quick that we re-distort what we see when we get pointing out, typically. So, this being said, they give you practices. And in some practices, like perhaps in China with Chan, if you don't see it, get the hell out of here. Maybe it was like that, in other traditions, they okay, if you don't see it, go do some mantras, or maybe they tell you to go do some work, shoot some arrows or something. I don't know, but go wash some floors. There have been so many, antidotes prescribed to people throughout the Dharma history. I can't speak much on Chan and Zen. I don't want to speak out of my sort of. I specialize in Nyima Buddhism, that's for sure. But I'm studying a little bit more deliberately now, Chan and Zen, just to get, for example, the Samye debate in the 700s, late 700s, and all that. It really comes down to the fact that somebody who's totally free, totally awakened, is trying to tell you that you're already here, and you can't catch that because you're in your thoughts, right? You're in these impulses. So that's where we have the appearance of gradation. So anyway, I won't go into that too far. It is a fascinating topic. It's called gradual versus sudden enlightenment. And of course, in Dzogchen, we practice sudden enlightenment. In your 10-minute sessions, you're just getting used to your enlightenment. So it seems like there's gradation, but there's not. That's an illusion. Okay, so everybody good, yeah? No comments, questions? You just ding on in there if you want to. So third here, remember this is translated, it's sourced from a couple of texts. It's translated by Adam Pearcey, 2005, and then revised in 2016. And this is, in short, Thubten Nyima Rinpoche. And we're on section 3, the 3 secret vehicles of powerful transformative methods. Now, sometimes they're classified a little bit different for you Dharma nerds out there. Kriya and Charya would be purification, path of purification, inner. Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddha yana, and Bodhisattva yana would be path of renunciation, outer. Mahāyoga yana and Anuyoga yana are path of transformation. Yes, two of those. I'm not sure if Rinpoche will consider Atiyoga Dzogchen a path of transformation, but I do not. I go by another classification where Atiyoga is considered the path of self-liberation. All right, I know that's a lot of detail, but we're preserving it, which is nice, and it may not be interesting. I totally get it, that it may not be interesting. So, and we typically keep it on Dzogchen here, but we're exploring something in the other vehicles. So these are the three inner classes of Tantra: the vehicle of Mahāyoga, the vehicle of Anuyoga, and the vehicle of Atiyoga. Yeah, so personally, I don't classify Atiyoga as a transformative method. You're not transforming anything. You're realizing primordial purity. And any karma that's left, you're entering into a state of nirvana. It's self-liberating. So that's why it's called the path of self-liberation. Okay, and it can be a standalone path, by the way, which is essentially how we present it here. Pretty standalone. It says, you might wonder, why are these, you might wonder, why are these are called, okay, I thought it was me for a second. It's a typo. You might wonder why these are the pirate translating this text. But didn't I call it Yeshi? I said something was up with this text. It was clunky. Adam Pearcey maybe just pieced it together. It was very early on in his career, I'm assuming. It was quite a while ago. So anyway, we're still grateful, eternally grateful for this text. So it says, you might wonder, why are these called vehicles of powerful transformative methods? It is because they include powerful methods for transforming all phenomena into great purity and equalness. The vehicle of Tantra Mahāyoga. The vehicle of Mahāyoga, or Great Yoga, is so called because it is superior to ordinary Yoga Tantra, since all phenomena are realized to be a magical display in which appearance and emptiness are indivisible. And Mahāyoga, by the way, was the Chan monk who debated Shantarakshita in the great Samya debate, where Dzogchen beat Zen. So it says, once again, I will briefly describe its point of entry. The reason I stuck that in there is because we're still, can you go back up a little bit? The vehicle of Mahāyoga it sometimes gets confused with Mahayana, and it's technically Tantrayana, but it made me think of that monk and the whole debate, because they were also debating this kind of stuff for 2 days. So once again, I will briefly describe its point of entry, view, meditation, action, and results. Entry point. Once one's mind has been matured through receiving the 10 outer benefiting empowerments, the 5 inner enabling empowerments, and the 3 secret profound empowerments, one keeps the samayas as they are described in the texts. Now, I don't know about other people out there, but we typically got all those at once. We would get the 5 Buddha family empowerments, and the 5 lights, and the 3 vase empowerments, all that stuff. There are Dzogchen empowerments and transmissions, and there are Tantrayana empowerments and transmissions that differ slightly. So the view, by means of extraordinary lines of reasoning, one establishes and then realizes the indivisibility of the 2 higher levels of reality, according to which the cause for the appearance of the essential nature, the 7 riches of the Absolute, is spontaneously present, within the pure awareness that is beyond conceptual elaboration, and all relative phenomena naturally appear as the mandala of deities of the three seats. This is highly encoded with enumerations. I'm not going to start explaining them all, but you can do that research if you're interested. So, the meditation would be when it comes to the path and the practice of meditation, the main emphasis is on the generation stage. In the practice of generation stage yoga, one sets up the practice through the three samadhis, ensures that the three of purifying, perfecting, and ripening are complete within the visualization, and once the visualization is complete, seals it with the instruction on the four nails securing the life force. In the practice of the completion stage yoga, one activates the vital points of the Vajra body, its subtle energies, essences, luminosity, and so on. So Kirim and Zokrim, I doubt anybody out there in the Vajrayana world who's so hard up about their deity practices and who chastises people for practicing Dzogchen, I doubt they're doing all this. They're simply not. I haven't seen the teachers make sure people are doing this stuff, and I haven't seen people doing this stuff. And I grew up in Vajrayana Buddhism, but they're not making sure that the three samadhis are there and all that stuff. No. So conduct. One maintains elaborate, unelaborate, and extremely unelaborate conduct. The three samadhis of body, speech, and mind. The terminology could be a little bit different in this particular presentation, but basically, that's your meditation. Did you have to be able to hold that visualization? How do you verify that somebody's able to create a visualization that looks like it's right in front of them? It's that good, fully detailed, and you're able to hold it. So that's the samadhi, that's the concentration. I don't think we have a way of validating that with people, and I don't think it's consistent enough. But maybe that's just my critique. But the enumerations are up the wazoo in this text, and it's not that long. So in the footnotes, some of them are explained. Others you'll have to look up. So the results. In the short term, one reaches the four Vidyadhara levels, which are the results belonging to the path. And finally, one gains the ultimate fruition and reaches the level of the Vajradhara of unity. Yeah, and to me, this whole path, the Mahāyoga path, is you have a subtle energy body here, everybody. Everybody. And it's sort of outside, it's inside your body, of course, but you can think of it as a gradient. So you can see your skin, it's very coarse, but there's energy around your fingers that you can't see. Well, if you're a yogi or if you're anomalous, perhaps you can see it. But this isn't unique. They have imaging devices that can see heat signatures and things around the human body, halos and orbs around the human body, energy. And so we have that. We have all kinds of layers of energy. What the deity practice does is it forms a kinship. It rekindles your kinship with your subtle body that we tend to ignore as materialists. So let's move on to the vehicle of scriptural transmission, Anuyoga, the eighth yana. And here it typically gets associated with completion stage and channels, winds, and drops. So let's see what Rinpoche has to say about it. The vehicle of Anuyoga, or following yoga, is so called because it mainly teaches the path of passionately pursuing or following wisdom, and the realization that all phenomena are the creative expression of the indivisible unity of absolute space and primordial wisdom. Now notice too, every yana has different terminology to say the same thing. Absolute space is emptiness. Primordial wisdom is cognition, empty cognition, your own awareness. In the other yana, they were calling it the non-conceptual absolute bodhicitta because it was associated still with Mahāyana. So there are thresholds between these yanas, and they interweave, they interlay, they're non-linear, they're asymmetrical, and typically they're presented nowadays in the institutions anyway, like the various temples. You will see people getting an empowerment, monastics, so that they've taken the Vinaya vows, Patimoksha vows, and then they go get empowerments, and then they do Dzogchen effortless abiding, at the end of their visualization practices. That's how it should go, according to the path. And while they're doing that, they're studying Madhyamaka. They're studying the 13 great texts of the Shedra. And so in this way, all yanas are being given to them, and their heart, their karma, all that will ideally bring them into one of these yanas naturally. Like many of you have naturally come into Dzogchen. It's quite natural. There was no pressure around it. There's no falsehoods like, oh, I'm trying to be the super practitioner, practice the highest. Many of you, I introduced Dzogchen, you didn't even know it was the highest. So once again, let us say a little about its point of entry, view, meditation, conduct, and results. By the way, I think we may go over Guru Rinpoche's version of this next time around. I might need some feedback from people. We may need to go back into some pure Dzogchen. I don't know how people are feeling about all this technical stuff, but it's a fascinating exploration anyway, the Garland of Views. It's a little bit different than this one. It has some more information, and it diversifies some of the yanas. Like it makes more sense of the Pratyeka Buddha yana. For example, it says at the very end they don't look for teachers, but up until that they could have teachers, and that makes more sense to me. So the entry point of the Anuyoga yana, one's mind is matured through the 36 empowerments, in which the 4 rivers, outer, inner, accomplishing, and secret, are complete, and one keeps the samayas as described in the text. That's a unique translation. Normally it'd be outer, inner, secret, and innermost secret. But perhaps that's a unique context I'm not aware of. So the view, through logical reasoning, that would be Madhyamaka, one determines that which is to be known, the fact that all phenomena are characterized as being the 3 mandalas in their fundamental nature, and realizes that this is so. Meditation. Meditation practice here consists of 2 paths. On the path of liberation, one practices the non-conceptual samadhi of simply resting in a state that accords with the essence of reality itself, and the conceptual samadhi of deity practice, in which one visualizes the mandala of supporting palace and supported deities simply by reciting the mantra of generation. Yeah, typically in a sadhana, if you're doing visualization practices, there will be a generational part of it where you it's very descriptive. It tells you 1 face, 2 arms holding a mala and a begging bowl, sitting in full lotus. It describes everything for you. On the path of skillful means, one generates the wisdom of bliss and emptiness through the practices of the upper and lower gateways. You see, this is quite advanced, Vajrayana, and I feel like people only deal with a very top layer of this out there. We simply don't have the time and the capacity and the access to Tibetan lamas to get all this down, in my opinion. It's best to stick with pure Dzogchen. So the conduct, one practices the conduct that is beyond adopting or abandoning, in the recognition that all perceptions are but the display of the wisdom of great bliss. So here you might start seeing the crazy yogis doing whatever they want. The results? At the culmination of Anuyoga's own uncommon 5 yogas, which are essentially its 5 paths and the 10 stages, that are included within these 5, one attains the level of Samantabhadra. Yes, so the 5 paths are of the Mahāyana and the 10 bhumis, and basically levels of absorption. Man, this thing is enumerated. I feel like I'm reading a math problem. All right, so we made it to the 9th yana. Somehow we did it. It worked out. 9th yana. Anybody know a synonym for Atiyoga? Just making sure you guys are still awake. Yeah, Dzogchen. So, great perfection. Yes. So Ati means the highest, right? So the vehicle of Atiyoga or utmost yoga is so called because it is the highest of all vehicles. It involves the realization that all phenomena are nothing other than the appearances of the naturally arising primordial wisdom or awareness, which has always been beyond arising and ceasing. The following is a brief explanation of the entry point, view, meditation, conduct, and results of this vehicle. So notice how every yana has a base, path, and fruition. So they all have an entry point. They all have a view, meditation, conduct, and results, or fruition. Usually translated as fruition or results. So the entry point. One's mind is matured to the four expressive power of awareness. Wouldn't that be powers? Four expressive powers of awareness. A little typo there. Empowerments, Rigpit, Tsawang, and one keeps the samayas as explained in the text. Yeah, to me, this is basically a crossover where Tantra is crossing over into Dzogchen. I feel that you don't need these elaborate empowerments, although I've had them from Tigla Gyalchen all the way to the Nintiks, all the Nintik, Vima Nintik, all that, Khandro Nintik empowerments. I've had Avalokiteshvara Mahamudra Dzogchen empowerments from the Dalai Lama himself, but I really don't feel that he would even say that you need that ritual. That's provisional. But a lot of people incorporate the rituals into Dzogchen. For me, it's more of a distraction. It seems, in my approach, that our approach that formed here in our gatherings. I'm not hating on anybody else's approaches. If they're working, then that's awesome. If it's not working, then well, what the heck you doing? Really, what are you doing? But okay, let's move on. So the view of Atiyoga Dzogchen. The view is definitely established by looking directly into the naturally arising wisdom in which the 3 kayas are inseparable. The empty essence of naked awareness beyond the ordinary mind is the Dharmakaya. Its cognizant nature is the Sambhogakaya, and its all-pervading compassionate energy is the Nirmanakaya. And our whole retreat is going to be focused on Dzogchen for the next 48 hours this weekend. And, for some reason out there, they don't correlate the 3 kayas like this. Here it's another example where it's written plain as day. You cannot even argue that. Sambhogakaya is a reference to the cognizant aspect of your awareness. So I just said Sambhogakaya is a reference to the cognizant aspect of your awareness. I just said that because there was a cognizant aspect of my mind here as I was speaking, right? So that gave me the power to know what I just said. If I was like a computer, no offense to the computers if I'm wrong, no offense. Please don't kill me. But if I was like a calculator that just carried out instructions in a linear fashion with no self-awareness, then that would be different. But here I can actually have an instruction, a thought in my head, and there's a cognition that holds that serves as the basis for that. So you don't just know what I just said, where I called Sambhogakaya the cognizant aspect, but you know the tone of voice I just had when I said it. You know what I look like when I'm saying it. There's a cat on my lap as I'm saying it. So there's this entire mind here, a knowingness. That's the cognizant aspect. And that cognizant aspect that has to be there like a security camera, just uninvolved, but involved. That cognizant aspect has to be empty. It has to be like space. Otherwise, I could have these, like I always say, if awareness went on vacation, then you wouldn't be able to remember what I just said. You wouldn't remember that the cat is on your lap. None of that. And that's what happens when we get distracted. We get distracted into thinking. We're not in our omniscience and our wide open omniscience. And so they say it's dharmakaya, it's emptiness. Your awareness is empty cognizance. And it has an energy, just like the sun has an energy, which is compassionate energy, the nirmanakaya. Leo is asking, does Sambhogakaya turn on and off? And Nyima answered no, and I agree. Yes, and the text and the teachings would agree. And what I seem to be seeing in my experience, and you can validate for yourself, that's the idea. Is it like space? Is it like unchanging, immutable space? That's what we really want to look into, everybody. We want to validate. Is there a part of your mind that's the ground, the basis for all experience? This is what you're warming up to, because when you're in the basis, you're not going to suffer anymore. And your conditioning is going to come apart. It's going to come undone when you're resting in the basis for everything. So your mind, by the way, the cognizant nature would be considered the masculine, and the space itself, the feminine. Those are in union right now. Your body, everything, you have consciousness like that. This union. And then because it's so powerful as an energy, just like the sun is glowing, your mind is glowing this body. They call the Rupakaya, the Nirmanakaya body, that you're glowing. And we infer things like time, and we overlay and compound, and we all agree on these constructs. So we're essentially doing the visualization practices right now. We're doing them very good. So anyway, I don't want to get into teaching too much on this. We're about to have a whole retreat. But it's great that Rinpoche plugged in the three kayas here. So the meditation consists of the approach of cutting through resistance to primordial purity, kadak trekcho, where kadak means purity and cho means cut, through which the lazy can reach liberation without effort, and the approach of the direct realization of the spontaneous presence, lundrup togyal, through which the diligent can reach liberation with exertion. So that's typically the trope. I don't really get down with it. Remember, a lot of this stuff is based on archaic patterns in other cultures. I feel like here we're pretty much embracing both of those, kadak and lundrup. You would never want to separate those. So some people, they separate them for some reason, and to me, it's just not my style. I always keep things together. The kayas, everything, I should always be thought of as unionized. So it consists of the approach of cutting through. Typically, they call that awareness practice. You get introduced to awareness as mindfulness. So not the clear light aspect, in my opinion. You get introduced to this mindfulness. Now you can, oh, wow, I'm having a thought about eating a lot of pizza. You can use awareness to just cut through that thought. Look at that thought as you're having it, and it goes away, and you rest in the empty presence. That's awareness, no clear light. Here you get introduced, luckily, somehow, magically, spontaneously. We got very, very lucky. We incorporate the clear light naturally. So we have clear light awareness. So it's the very clear light. It's a kind of a brilliance. For example, if you notice between you and the device right now, there's a subtle mind, a presence of your mind. It's just like space. It's very, very subtle. You can't really see it when we're in the coarse mind, and when we're distracted, and when we're preoccupied, or when we're stealing and lying and gossiping. So it takes a little bit of stability to see this, recognize this clear light, space-like mind of yours. It's always been here through lifetimes. That's what they're asking you to look for. And it's kadak, it's primordially pure, meaning it doesn't have a location. Again, if it had a location, there would be problems. It needs to be everywhere. It needs to be the basis for everything. It's spontaneously present. That's the cognition. Again, if your awareness went on vacation, you wouldn't be able to remember anything. You wouldn't know anything. You'd just be like a drone, like on autopilot. So Kadak and Londrup always united. Trekcho and Tokyo always united. Longchenpa actually says that. And in other texts, he says he's in a different context, which, it's also related to his Jigme Lingpa, the Yeshe Lama. Everybody romanticizes and mystifies the Yeshe Lama. I don't think anybody out there is really practicing it. You know what? I don't follow the Yeshe Lama. And when it came up in this group, I had aversions to it for a reason, because the true Dharma, I don't feel like anybody would say Togyal is better than Trekcho. Now, I think why they started saying that is because in a certain context, it is, as far as phenomenon goes, it's better than Trekcho, because it's starting to show you your cartoon is actually luminosity. And that's a big deal, because once you start to see the farce, the fallacy within reality, then you're like, okay, I'm going to let go a little bit. I'm going to pull out of this a little bit, pull my hooks out, because Togyal just showed you bindus and luminosity that this isn't what you think it is. So Togyal is very, very powerful like that. But without awareness, you couldn't have it. So that's my input. And typically, Trekcho gets associated with the lazy people because you don't have to do anything. And Togyal with the diligent people, because you're constantly pulling rays and using these postures and going out into the wilderness and the mountains and doing these yogic practices. Nowadays, nobody really practices Togyal anymore, but we do. We preserve it and we practice it here. And when people are ready and they ask for it, they get the instructions on Togyal and how to incorporate that. But first, you get introduced to clear light awareness. When you and I have a one-on-one, for sure, maybe with others, it may be a little different, but I'm pretty sure it'll relate. You get pointed to clear light awareness. Clear light is one of the 5 lights. Therefore, it's Togyal. For those people who are really picky and getting into this, there's the explanation. Are there any comments or questions so far? Okay, I believe you. The conduct of Atiyoga. The conduct is free from hope and fear, and adopting and abandoning, because all that appears manifests as the display of reality itself. And this is the radical part. Why many people won't practice Dzogchen. You got to begin to see your entire reality is just like if it was in a dream. It's all your mind. Everything's on you at that point. There is a maturity and the strength that comes with this. Results. Perfecting the 4 visions of the path, one gains the supreme kaya, the rainbow body of great transference, and attains the level of glorious samantabhadra. The 13th bhumi, known as the unexcelled wisdom, Yeshe Lama. Yeah, see, you get to have the Yeshe Lama without practicing the Yeshe Lama. How about that? And 13 bhumis, we can tell, with all due respect to Thubten Nyima Rinpoche, he's using some kind of provisional outlook of Atiyoga, almost a sutric outlook, because I've heard it say that there are no bhumis in Dzogchen, and I highly agree with that. No levels, no bhumis, no stages, no steps, no elevators, no escalators, no ladders. We're just here. I'm getting used to that. So we made it through the 9 yanas, which I really appreciate because I wanted you all to have that. I wanted you to be equipped with that as Dharma practitioners going into this retreat, because you're about to get the 9 yanas. You're about to practice them all, essentially. We're not going to do the visualizations because we're already visualizing. So you're already doing that. No problem. Kriya and Charya Yoga, you got this. And maybe just brush your teeth and wash your butt, and then you're doing these Kriya and Charya ritual practices. I don't know. But we'll incorporate as much as we can, and then it'll only be within the first hour or so, and then we'll go into a lot of Trekcho and Togyao from there. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Are there any comments or questions? I think it's still the same schedule. Anybody out there getting lots of snow? I heard that snowstorm started. We're right on the edge, so we're just getting little flurries. It's basically from Taos seems like it's right on the line, because the mountain's right there. And from Texas east, people, I haven't heard any updates or checked anything, but I guess that's where the snow's going to be. Okay. Everybody good? And I even finished early. Holy crap. And I knew it the whole time. I knew it would work out perfect, you guys. Below 5. Wow. That's pretty cold. Oh, you are welcome. My pleasure. In the redwoods, it pretty much stays perfect. Oh, wow. Is that where you're at? The redwoods? Are you talking about Northern California? Oh my God, are you lucky? Wow. Ooh, I love that place. Humboldt County. Wow. You smoking it up there? Getting high? All good. How's the dogs doing today? Oh, they're good. They're good. Oh, Pema, don't tempt me. I will come with all 5 dogs to come visit you in the redwoods. I just stuff them in the caravan. Yeah, they are very good. Thank you for asking. They're all healthy, getting walks and everything, and lots of exercise. Little Bear's on a diet right now. So that's been interesting because he's been eating other people's food, and he got bloated like that. And then he walks like this. Doo, 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 doo. Dennis, go ahead there. Yeah.
Hey, just as far as the retreat tomorrow, I kind of been not as present this week. Is there any sort of preliminary or just uh, obviously the state of mind is kind of self-evident, but anything coming in that I should know? Yeah, I would like to participate as much as I can. To know, at least. Is
So,
there a limit for both days as well? Because I uh, might be able to not make Sunday all the way. Just,
oh,
yes.
yeah. What I'm really requesting is that since a lot of people feel they don't know, am I in awareness? Am I not in awareness? We really incorporate mindfulness for 48 hours. Anything we're saying, eating, exercise, cleaning, working on stuff. If you're a dog herder like me, then anytime with your animals and things like that, all very, very mindful in the presence. If you catch your mind trying to fast forward to get out of the presence, or dredging stuff up from the past, bringing it into presence, we really want to know that. We want to know when our mind is busy. And ideally, this whole retreat, the overall intention, aside from freedom for all beings, um, is for many of you, this will be the threshold. This will be the time where awareness comes into your life, out of our sessions, into your life. And so that is just the main intention there. Even when you go to sleep, you would be going to sleep like this in awareness, aware of awareness. You close your eyes, you know your body is starting to feel tired. You feel your mind changing into the hypnagogic state and into lucidity. You're there the whole time. Ideally, you'd be there throughout the night. And when you wake up, you're still there. And there's a feeling, or I should say, there's a non-referential discernment, if we want to get specific, of continuity. You will feel as though day and night have a continuity of wakefulness. Very, 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 very strange, because you're going to sleep, you're getting rest, but you're in wakefulness. So, yeah, go figure. But I'd really like for a lot of you to begin accessing this stuff, okay? And of
Yes,
course, yeah, go ahead.
understood. So maybe I had a misconception about it. I thought it was, like we were gonna, start in the morning, well, kind of like a scheduled thing. But if you're
Yes.
talking, okay.
Yeah, we are. But what I'm saying is that
Mhm.
the scheduled times are only there to support your 48 hours. Like, I'm going to keep
Mhm.
emphasizing, because you're going to spend much more time outside of the sessions. So we're going to
Mhm.
have 4 hours, 5 if you count the later session. We're going to have 5 hours out of the day together. Yeah. Is that what you're asking about? We are going to have schedule.
Yeah, yeah. This kind of no. What you said earlier kind of is the intention. Yes, kind of
Oh,
basically what I was trying to get at.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Very
all
good.
clear. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, very good. Yeah, I'm hoping to just like we give you the vitamins. I'm hoping Dorje Legpa and Ropa can, where it's comfortable, can fit in. Maybe have a little breakout session where Dorje Legpa does a guided meditation, or maybe have a little, sharings and things like that in a breakout session. I think we can experiment here, and then if you guys have proposals or comments, critiques, questions, of course, you're always welcome to do that. Yes, you may.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe like after the session, in between the first session and last session, if we want to, we could stay. If whoever wants to, we could stay in this session just to observe silence and meditate.
Yeah, I think it's better, because I kind of regretted putting a whole hour break. It's a little too long. I feel like it's our first retreat, and I didn't want to push people, but I feel like we can handle 5 hours. But yeah, I'd prefer if people practiced during that 1 hour. However, so yeah.
Okay, cool.
But it's also good to stay refreshed. We'll see how it goes. It's our first one. It's our first baby. Good. I feel like a little behind. We could have started a YouTube channel, all this stuff 10 years ago, but it wouldn't have been Dzogchen. So sorry for the wait, but here we are. We're here now. Okay, well, it is Friday around here. The dogs are frisky as ever with this snow. they are acting so crazy today, but they gave us some quiet for the Dharma time, which is nice. Yeah, Tim.
Good question. So, for the duration of the 48 hours, what about listening to media like, chanting of Om Mani, stuff like that? Or
Yeah.
would it be better to just really not listen to anything?
No, it's relatively a long time, and I'm basing it off the same standards you would find in the traditional Tibetan retreats. So anything Dharma related is fine. That means on Discord, if you're talking Dharma on there, that would be considered right speech. It's fine. Us talking right now, we're talking about Dharma. It's great. Anything that's sort of idle speech, materialistic, desire-based, sense-based, if we could ease up on that. Now, this is the middle way, but I encourage you to challenge yourself to stay off your phone, to stay off YouTube, to stay off the intoxicants, to not overeat, all these kinds of things. And mindful, I'm going to tell everybody tomorrow again, you don't have to take a vow of silence, but you can have mindful speaking, where you can pretty much stay silent unless it's necessary. And you don't need to contrive that. You don't need to force yourself to be quiet. But ideally, you'd also keep your sexual fluids in unless, you have the nighttime sort of leak or something like that. That's okay. That's acceptable. No, that's a real thing. People expel fluids in the night. And that's actually on retreats. They talk about that a lot. But yeah, ideally, we're going to keep our sexual fluids in for 48 hours too. Okay. Lots of little stuff like that to facilitate very powerful Dzogchen realizations. Leo, if you're finding it that entertaining, oh man, best not to go to any temples or gatherings. That could get messy. Oh, it's intoxicating. Oh, I thought you meant something else. Okay. Yes. Don't worry. If Dharma is your intoxicant, that is fine. You're allowed to get doped up on Dharma. Drunk on Dharma. I do it all the time. Dharma gets me more giddy than any drug in history. Actually, somehow. I do love hanging out with the Sangha and exploring texts and getting into all this stuff, preserving it too. And we're just keeping it real in a lot of ways as well. So it's awesome. Okay, everybody. Well, any final thoughts, comments, questions before we check out today? You got it. And people can still come to the regular sessions. We're going to sort of integrate those. So it'll be fine. Oh, yeah, Leo. Well, thanks for being interested in them. I feel like even just a brief glance at the Nine Yanas gives you a huge heads up into a very ancient curriculum, like I always say, and very effective, rooted in truth. Nowadays, you have many, many people using the truth as an excuse for abuse. Did not mean to rhyme that. But that's exactly what happens, and we're reclaiming the truth in many ways here. And that means so much to me. It's not happening on Discord. It's happening here in Jitsi. We haven't ventured into Discord, their whole situation that they got there where you can present videos and live streams and stuff. That might be cool at some point. All right. So we'll just end here then. So any realization, any benefit from this gathering today? There are beings in this very presence that are suffering. We'll take a moment of silence to dedicate it all to them. And deep bow to you, everybody. I hope you have a beautiful day.